the political class in terms of whether or not we're doing the right things in joining our hands and fighting terrorism. Because remember, the late NSA did say, look, political class, this is political. They should look inwards and sort this out. They cried out at the time, and now, who knows? But if we say this is political, or if we listen to those who say there's something political about us, are we being realistic or are we wasting our time?
First of all, I must say you are right. For a long time, our political class has been self-serving in every respect. They have, first of all, there's this denial. Everybody keeps on saying the problem is leadership, and yet does not want to go beyond to say whether the grounds of existence of leadership, that was the basis which you anchor leadership, is sound. Honestly, the basis on which you sound leadership or putting governance in practice is I would say defective. The political structure we have now encourages corruption, where you have fiscal centralism instead of fiscal federalism. In a country, a multinational state like Nigeria, and a country so large in terms of territory and in terms of the different ethno-nationalities, to pretend that we can have one uniform structure for everybody to follow is self-delusion. We must realize that it's a high time we devolve power to the people. And by this I mean, we must also realize that we must be equitable, that is free and fairness, and ensure equality, not only in talking, but in action. So the idea that some people, for example, think that a man from a minority should not be given his chance, and they think that they can make his government difficult, make it difficult for him to govern a country. They must remember, even if they succeed, that the people from that area will also retaliate. So it's a high time the middle class realize that it is to our own self-interest to cooperate and to show that you do not try to embarrass a man because he's from one part of the country or because you think that he's a minority. I think that when I see people with this attitude, that thinking that only us can govern or only some parts, and people for a long time in this country, people who are for the minority ethnic groups, both in the south and the north, have been taken for a ride for too long.
Also, some of those who are speaking up on Twitter who are watching now, I see the comments of Friday Joseph. He says, I think it will be more effective and less expensive to dig a wide trench around our border, limiting vehicular movement there. But he's talking about the borders now. Remember, we have this multinational joint task force. And then you get to hear how the abducted schoolgirls, rumors or not, move from one location in this country to another across our borders. And one wonders, if that were the case, who is checking the movement? Is the MJTF actually functioning? If not, what do we do? Are we getting the necessary cooperation from border countries?
As far as I know, there's a lot of, I think the neighboring countries are cooperating. I will only say that Cameroon needs to be much more cooperative. Chad, Niger, and of course Benin Republic are cooperative. I think a country that needs to be much more, we need to do much more to gain their cooperation. I would say it's Cameroon. But even them, they themselves are beginning to try. But you see, because the border is so long, and because there are families, there are ethnic nationalities that live across both borders. Like I come from a place, from a Buki nation, and we are, just like people in the Northeast, we share border with the Cameroonians. And there are people from my part who are Cameroonians. Now, it's very difficult, except you involve the locals. And how do you involve the locals? The locals must realize that they have a stake in your government. They have a stake. And how do they have their stake? If you allow them to vote who they want, not to pretend that you are having free and fair election when we know that we are not having free and fair election. All this pretense and lying to ourselves. We are getting the price for all these lies to ourselves. We need to take seriously the issue of free and fair election. We need to also make sure that money is spent in the local area so that people will feel that they're part of government. You see, if you look at in Lagos as an example, if you go to a place like people living in Surulere, which is a part of Lagos, the people there know that, oh, the government is building roads, is doing things. If you go to even a place like Alimoshan, which is one of the people can see that government is trying its best. But when you go to some of these our places, like in my part of the country, I have one of the biggest local government in the country, Oboki. There is no government presence. It's only now that the likes of Governor Lee Elimoke is trying to extend rural development to the people. So if a man feels that he is not being catered for and someone else comes in and brings a form of government, a form of Robin Hood type of government to him, the person will be silent or he would condone. And again, where a man goes to report to, say, to the police, and then he now finds that his report is being used for corruption to backfire on him, the person won't cooperate with the system. So a system that is not owned by the people will always have problem. I cannot say it over and over that we need to realize what it is to have participatory government.
How easy or difficult do you think it is kind of for everyone, perhaps even at the national conference, every stakeholder to pull together to either address security issues at the conference or in the society at large on a common ground?
Once you gather a people together, people from different, I say this with we come from different backgrounds and different interests and different, I would to some extent, different values, the way we see things. There's no doubt there will be differences and there will be struggles and there will be uproar. This is expected in a conference like this. But what is important is that as we go along, we must all realize areas of common interest. And one area of common interest is the area of national security. You see, the days of everybody thinking that, oh, I'm superior and I am in charge of the security are no more. Because some of those people are now the ones who can't even go back to their homes. Abuja and Lagos has become their refuge. And for some of them, Dubai is another refuge. So even if...
Yeah, I've heard people say that, look, this is a long-term thing. Some have said clearly, this is terrorism, point blank. And they talk about the short-term and the long-term solutions. Does it then mean that in the short term, we cannot get some sort of solutions and see us making appreciable progress?
In the short time, I think the implications of your questions, and of course of the spirit of what you are calling, and I thank you for that, is that those of us in the national conference must rise up to the task. We should know that it is no more business as usual. We should know that we are being attacked. All of us are being attacked. And it is a high time that before we go to the conference, we pray to God and let God guide our the way we look at things, and let God give us insight so that we can realize and understand each other. I, for example, have made mistakes. Many of us have made mistakes, but we need to know that it's a high time we know that we have only one country. Our country, we should be planning, since many of us there are older than 50, we should be thinking of our children's future.
Retired Colonel Tony Nyiam is a security consultant and a member of the ongoing national conference. Thank you for speaking with us today on Sunrise Daily.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
So there you have it, and looking at some of these security matters as they play out. But we'll be back in just a moment. We've got other matters as well today on the program. Join us again.